guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Ruva and this is going to be a video where I share my story about my miscarriage at 15 weeks. So I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time, and I don't know, I just kept delaying, but it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time since I had the miscarriage. So my miscarriage was in 2019, in May of 2019. And yeah, so May is always kind of a difficult month for me. It's when I really just recall the events of the loss. And yeah, this is end of May 2022, so I figured I will share my story in hopes that it will help somebody out there. One of the things that I found when I was going through the loss is it really helped me to hear other people's stories and to feel like I wasn't alone. So here's my story, and if you're watching this because you are going through a miscarriage, I want you to know that I'm really, really sorry. It's really tough. It's like an unimaginable pain that when you're not expecting it, it's just awful. And so I'm really, really sorry you're going through this, and I want you to know that you're not alone. Yeah, and I hope that my story can make you feel like you're not alone, and just a reminder that you will get through this, even though it's really hard right now. Yeah, so I was married for 2 years before my husband and I decided to start trying for a baby. We thought we were ready. We were really excited to start trying and to become parents. It took us 6 months to get pregnant. So I found out in February of 2019 that I was pregnant, and I was so excited, and I shared with my husband, and he was really nervous, but he was excited but very nervous. And so we started making plans. We started dreaming about this baby. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, you can picture the child, and you're super excited, and you start planning for your baby. Yeah, so we announced to our family. Our family knew, and I didn't tell my friends. We didn't announce to our friends until like 14 weeks because we had wanted to be careful and really wait for the 3rd trimester before we told anybody. But our family knew. But before I had gotten pregnant, I knew I had 2 fibroids. So I had 2. One was big. One was a big one, and one was a small one. I don't remember exactly the measurements, but I know there was a big one and a little one. And my doctor assured me that, people with fibroids get pregnant all the time, and they can have healthy babies, and they have healthy babies, safe deliveries. But the biggest thing was that I would probably experience pain. They said that most likely, I might get cramping or pain during the pregnancy. And I was fine with it. I was like, as long as the baby's healthy and as long as I can have a baby at the end, I'm fine. I'll take the pain. I'll take Tylenol, whatever. So yeah, so going in, we knew we had the fibroids, and we had the warnings for the pain and everything. So yeah, I remember I started to have cramping around like 13 weeks. I started to have cramping, and I went to the doctors, to my midwife, and she checked me out. They did an ultrasound, and everything was fine with the baby. So it just became that it was the fibroid, right? Like, the fibroid is causing pain, but everything else is fine. You're gonna be okay. The only thing was that I was measuring really big. They said I was measuring at 20 weeks and I was only like 13 weeks pregnant. So that was interesting. And I remember being so concerned, like, oh my gosh, if I'm measuring 20 weeks at 13 weeks, what am I gonna look like when I actually get to the end of the pregnancy? But yeah, so they said it's fine. You're gonna experience cramping because of the fibroid, but you're gonna be okay. So I just kind of took the pain. I would take Tylenol, and I would have these cramps off and on. And I went again, to get tested because I was just really uncomfortable and a lot of pain. So I went again at 14 weeks. And again, they said, you're fine. It's the fibroid. The baby looks fine. And they did an ultrasound and the baby was fine. So on May 26th, on a Friday, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact date. On May 20, I believe it was 24th. Yeah, it was a Friday, towards, Memorial Day. I woke up, I was feeling fine, and then I noticed that I was getting like watery discharge. TMI, but that's what happened. I was getting like a watery discharge, and but everything else was okay. I wasn't in any pain that day, and I figured, it's normal, it's pregnancy, I don't know. But I remember just being so happy that day because I was wearing a new dress that I had bought from Target, and it was this green bodycon dress that was really fitted and showed my belly. And so I was excited, that people at work would finally get to see my belly. I hadn't told clients that I was pregnant, but I had told my coworkers. So this was gonna be a way for clients to know that I was pregnant because I wasn't hiding my bump. So so I went into work. It was a nice morning, nice day, and I remember sitting on the computer, logging in, and I started doing my work, and then I sneezed. So when I sneezed, there was a gush of liquid that came out, and then I stood up, and I was trying to hold it, but it kept coming out, because in my mind I was thinking I was peeing on myself. But I was confused, why I couldn't control it. So as I was trying to think about what to do, it started happening again. And I grabbed the trash can, and I remember sitting on it so that it would come out. It's so that the water would fall into the trash can. And I'm shutting the blinds to my office so that no one sees me sitting on a trash can. And it was just a really weird moment. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, let me call my mom and tell her what happened. And so I called her and I'm like, Mom, I just peed myself. I had a bunch of fluid coming out, but I couldn't stop it. And she's like, you're not supposed to be, that doesn't sound normal. Why don't you call your doctor? So I called the doctor, and they said, oh, the nurse practitioner will call you back. And I was like, okay, I'll just wait for a call. I wasn't really panicked. I was just more confused and oh my gosh, I peed myself, but I didn't think anything horrible was happening. So I left work to go home to change because I had to change my outfit. And as I was home, the nurse practitioner called me back, and she was like, oh, it's probably incontinence. Are you in any pain? I said, no. She said, yeah, it's normal, incontinence, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you come in on Tuesday so we can examine you? So mind you, this was like on a Friday, but it was Memorial Day weekend. So obviously like Monday things would be closed, and I'm sure they were short staffed. So she said to come in on Tuesday, and I was like, okay, fine. So on that day, my mom and my sisters ended up coming because they knew I was kind of worried, and they were more concerned than they let on. But so they came to see me for lunch. And before I went to lunch, actually, I remember calling my husband and telling him what had happened. And I was kind of joking about it and laughing and being like, oh, I peed myself, haha, pregnancy. And he looked so concerned. Like his face was not, he wasn't laughing about it. He was just like really serious, and he was worried. But I was still trying to make it light and not think about it. And so, yeah, so after I spoke to my husband, I left work, and then I met my mom and my sisters. And I remember sitting in the restaurant crying, and I started crying because I don't know, I just like was getting worried, and I'm like, I hope everything is okay. So I'm crying, and my mom is like comforting me in Bertucci's, and she like said a prayer. And as we were leaving Bertucci's, my midwife calls, and she's like, I explained to her again what happened, and she's like, okay, it's unusual that happened, but we'll check you out on Tuesday. You should be fine. It might be incontinence. Like, we'll check you out. She asked me like the color of the stuff that was coming out, and I said, well, it's clear, and because at that point I had a pad on, so they told me to put a pad on and like keep track of what was happening. And I really wasn't having any more like fluid coming out, really, but I did have the pad on. So my midwife was like, okay, we'll see you on Tuesday. Call us if anything else happens. So, okay, so Saturday was the next day. So Saturday I went to see my family, to visit with my family, and we went shopping. I remember with my sisters, we went shopping and just hung out and had fun. And then my husband was actually working weekend on Saturdays at that time. So I went and picked him up. And when I went to pick him up at work, he commented about my stomach. He said the seatbelt was like, I don't know, something was weird with how my stomach looked with the seatbelt. It almost felt like if it looked looser than it had been before, like not as firm. I don't know. And so I just brushed it off like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's the way that I'm sitting or whatever. Because at that point, I wasn't really thinking anything is wrong. I was just like, something weird happened and that's it. So Saturday he commented on how weird my stomach kind of looked. And then Sunday, I woke up and I had cramps. And it was like, I would have them, and then they would go away. And I would have them again a few minutes later, and they would go away. And they weren't like super intense, I'm screaming, but they were definitely uncomfortable. And but it was weird because I would be so uncomfortable, and then I would be fine, like nothing was happening. And then we were going to visit with my family again on Sunday, and we went to the house. We picked up my sister, and there's a park nearby. So we got like a picnic blanket, and we were just gonna hang out outside. And I remember we got there, and I was tired, and I took a little nap for a few minutes. And then my husband and I wanted to go for a walk. So we got up and we went, there's a path around the park. So we started walking, and I had to pee, like, pregnant women know. I had to go pee, and I just was like, oh, there's no bathroom, but there was like a wooded area, and I couldn't hold it. So I was like, I'm just gonna go in the woods. So I went to go pee, and then I noticed on my underwear there was like some blood, like spotting. It wasn't a lot, but it was like enough that I could be like, okay, that's blood. And I remember reading somewhere that if you are spotting, it's not a good sign. And so I was freaked out, and I got out of the bush and I went to my husband and I said, I'm spotting. And I told him. And then we sat down at a bench that was nearby and we prayed. And we knew, I think we knew something wasn't right, but we were just hopeful, like, please God, let it be okay. You know, we're going to be okay. And we went back and told my sister what had happened. And we're like, we're going to go to the hospital. And so she was like, I'm coming with you. So she calls my mom and tells her what's happening. My mom and my other sister were like, okay, we'll meet you at the hospital. You guys go. So we go to the hospital. I called them and I said, I'm on my way. This is what happened. And they told us to go ahead and come in. Yeah, so we got there. I remember on the way we were like playing music, and I was trying to like, you know, like we're playing gospel music and I'm trying to sing and like stay positive. So the ride there, I wasn't as worried as I could have been, because I really was just like singing and like praising God in it all. And so that helped. That was very helpful. So we got to the hospital, and they led us to where we would get the ultrasound. And my sister stayed in the waiting room, and my husband and I went in with the tech. And so she was very friendly. She's like, okay, I'm just gonna test to make sure everything is okay. I laid on the bed, and she starts doing the ultrasound. And she is just like so serious. She's not looking at us. She's just like very quiet. And I'm trying to like peek over to see the screen. And so I'm asking, is everything okay? Is the baby okay? Is he moving? Because I couldn't really tell if it was moving, right? Like, and I'm confused, like, what's happening? Because normally when we did the ultrasound, he would be moving around. So my husband is there just like serious, and he says he could see clearly from where he was standing, obviously, and the baby was just like, you could see the baby, you could see his little body, but he wasn't moving. He was just floating, which was so different from when we had seen him before, like doing flips and moving around and kicking. And yeah, and I kept asking, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And she's like, I'm gonna get the doctor, and I can't, tell you the results. I'm gonna go get the doctor. So she goes and gets the doctor. We wait a few minutes, and we're just kind of like holding hands. And my husband knew because he had seen it, but he didn't say anything to me. So the doctor came back. And I think she came back with another guy, like maybe a student or something. And she just held my hand, and she was like, I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat. And yeah. And I just remember, like, I didn't even know what to think, And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm so sorry, Yeah, we couldn't detect a heartbeat. And yeah, then my husband and I just hugged, and we cried. And but to be honest, it was like shock, like I hadn't processed what they were telling me. And then a nurse came, and she she was telling me like, oh, I'm so sorry, we are really understaffed right now. You're too far along that pretty much like trying to tell me about delivering the baby. Honestly, like it's hard to remember exactly what she said, but I was just like in a blur. All I remember her telling me is that I would have to come back on Tuesday. And in my mind, I'm thinking, today is Sunday, and you want me to like go home with this baby inside me who's not alive and come back on Tuesday? Like, are you crazy? And I know they do this and people go through this, but I don't know. I just think, for me personally, going home with a baby in my stomach and knowing that it wasn't alive anymore would have just been like traumatic. So yeah, so she's telling me this and I'm like trying to process, okay, you want me to come back on Tuesday, okay. And then she's like, we're just gonna check your temperature and see if you're okay, and then we'll make a plan. So she comes back and checks my temperature, and I had a fever. So they couldn't send me home because they were worried that I might have an infection. Like not knowing when the baby had passed. And then somewhere in there, she asked us if we had people we wanted to get from the waiting room. And my mom had arrived and my sister was in there. So she went and got them, and then, yeah, and then we told them, and we just all cried and hugged. Like, it was like a group hug. It was, I'm so happy that my mom was there. As painful an experience, it was nice to have her there to comfort me and to have my sisters there. Yeah, so then they told us that we had to go upstairs and they would get us a room, and then there would be a doctor who would come. And I went up to the room and I wanted to go to the bathroom, or they told me to change into a robe, and I wanted to go into the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom and I noticed blood. Like, now it was like heavy, like chunks of blood. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, look. And she's like, okay, you know. She just hugged me. And yeah. And so after that, we had to decide whether we wanted to do a DNC or to deliver the baby. So one of my best friends happens to work in that hospital, and she was actually there. And she came in. I don't know if they told her, like, if she saw my name on the board or if I texted her. I don't even remember. All I know is she came in, and she's and she was like, she explained to me, you know, if you do the DNC, you're not going to be able to see the baby. If you don't do the DNC, you and deliver, you can actually see the baby. And you can hold the baby and spend some time with it. So yeah, so we decided to deliver the baby. They gave me medication vaginally to start the process of like delivery. And I labored overnight. I was having like cramping and pretty much contractions. They gave me medication to help with that. And on Monday morning at like 6:30, I delivered the baby. It just came out. And yeah, and we got to hold him. We're not sure of the sex. We say it's a him. I think it's a boy. And we named him Jeremiah, which was gonna be his name. We already had a name for him. And yeah, we held him. We spent a lot of time with him in the hospital. We actually spent the night with him because they had one of those ice, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a place for the baby where it's a cooler pretty much, and you can keep the baby in the room for longer than you used to be able to. Yeah, so we got to hold him, and He spent the night with us, and my mom was there, my sisters were there with us, and it was really hard. I actually, long story short, I actually ended up having to get a DNC because, so after the baby came out, the placenta wasn't coming out. And so I had to, they did all the things that to try to get it out, and it wasn't coming out. So eventually they said, just, you can do the DNC. And so I ended up having to do the DNC anyways, but I am glad that I didn't initially do it so that I could see the baby, because we were 15 weeks, so he had already like his little body. Yeah, so I did the DNC surgery. We went back to the room, spent the night with the baby, and then the next day, my friend, who I mentioned before, she was working, so she came and picked the baby up and brought him to the morgue. Yeah, so that's my story. There's a lot, to talk about as far as processing everything afterwards, and coping and healing afterwards. So if you would want me to do a video on that, comment below and let me know. But yeah, if you're going through it, I want you to know that healing does come. It does get better, but it takes a lot. You go through a lot of pain and a lot of emotions that arise after the loss. It's really difficult. But yeah, I would love to share some of the ways that I coped and where we are now. But if you're going through this, I am praying for you. I'm thinking of you. You're not alone. You're not alone, and you'll get through this. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see any more of my videos where I talk about lifestyle, motherhood, and yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye.